Confabulation.
音の科学者グアム。
Save us all. Gotta save us all. Mama says we're
Accused of stabbing someone?
Well, let me take you back. First, the landlord that I had after I got divorced, I had moved into my own place, so my ex could move into the house we used to live in.
And
And
this
so this is about 3 years after that. I had a landlord who got which I thought that it was all about him getting his numbers wrong, because when I was away, my accountant paid him. Basically, and you have to understand the landscape of Australia. If you're a person of color, they're treated like Aboriginals who aren't treated like human beings in Australia. It's, it's just as bad as America in a sense of race relations, except they hide it better. Um, but it's deep rooted. It's like old English racism. It's really just deep rooted. So the treatment of Aboriginals through their history is profoundly gross, really. And so they treat those of color like with the angle, with pretty much the same lens that you would as any person of color. So to bring it back to this story, I moved into this person's home where I rented it out, leased it out, and he had come in. My accountants prepared his documents where he was wrong in his documents, and so I came and invited him over for a cup of tea and some biscuits, and that ensued into him starting and picking a fight, calling me a stupid nigger. And I said, "You really can't talk to me that way. You're going to have to leave." So as I gave him the papers, and that as I gave him the paper and says, "This is where my accountant showed you where you were off," he didn't want to hear any of that. He didn't even really want to look at it. I really didn't understand why. So I had to take him by his collar and escort him to my door, and that was the end of it. So maybe 3 days later, I used to live 2 houses down from the police department, who were friends of mine because I used to give concerts, and I owned a vocal school. I taught everybody's child. My school did, and I was director of one of the most famous venues there, and so a lot of people knew me, and they knew me from concerts. And so I knew a couple of guys at the police department, and they came to my house basically 3 days later, and put me in cuffs and literally threw me in a paddy wagon and go two doors down. It was humiliating. And then they told me about my landlord being stabbed and being all this stuff. Blah. Of course, he wasn't. And he said, "We have film." I said, "Well, that's good. So it'll prove that I did do it."
Yeah.
Well, that actually didn't come out later because they used that to scare me, as if I would just fold in, or I couldn't fight my case, or or if I was an Aboriginal who they were accustomed to not taking serious or had the money to fight the case. And in those most of those terms, people just give in. Aboriginals give in to that. I don't have money. I'm scared, so therefore I'm not going to fight my case. Um, so I think that's what because they didn't know me well enough to know that no, you got the wrong guy. And so as they were charging me with this stuff, I was in shock. And what you'll see in the A Boy with a Dream uh, documentary that we're doing, you'll find out that um, you'll find the actual videotape of the interview, the police interview, live, and it's crazy. And when you look back at it, you see they're playing good cop, bad cop,
Yeah.
and they're completely making this stuff up. So as they're doing all this, you'll see in the video, as they charge me with assault and battery and knifing and all this stuff, I have a cast on my arm all the way from my hand to up to here. I'm a right-hander and I play grand piano. That got injured 2 weeks ago, so that cast had been on for 2.5 weeks, um, which I broke moving a couch. And so I was curious to know as I'm holding it up in the camera during the interview, going, and just exactly how am I supposed to stab somebody, hit them, drag them out with a cast on, and I'm right-handed, and that's how I make my living. It was so absurd that you could not believe what was happening because but I had no idea. It turns out they're trying to extort money.
Wow.
So they charged me with all this stuff with the hope that I'd give in and I'd pay. So I made up a phony account, internet email. My friend did it, and I communicated with them, and I saved every email. And you had emails like, um, I can make this all go away, like a really bizarre episode of CSI or something. It's like, I can make this all go away and you can have peace back in your life if you just pay it. And I was like, you could not make this stuff up. It was incredible. Sent me to two doctors after this. They um, diagnosed me with post stress disorder from it. The fear of for almost 2 years not being able to see my daughter, just that fear alone, I had nightmares waking up, just wondering. I mean, you see movies like The Hurricane, and somebody sitting there who's absolutely did nothing, and they're being charged, which is the total opposite of your character. I don't even have a jaywalking ticket, and I'm from the roughest city in America. I'm like, and I'm 51, a black man who's never been charged, and now you want to. This is what you come up with, and so almost a year and a half later, we're going to court. The landlord's in the waiting area as I am, a bunch of others for their cases. He won't even look at me. He can't even bear to even look at me. I've always got along with him. Why I decided to do this? Obviously funny, but he wouldn't even look at me. But the sergeant who's charging me, the police department were the ones charging with this. This is bizarre. And came up and said, we still have that video. And my attorneys went, um, they actually said London, they weren't there. They literally said London, it's an open and shut. There's no evidence. Obviously, there's no stab wounds, there's no physical thing to him. There's nothing. But they still wanted to take it as far as hoping I'd cave in. So they came to me and said, he recorded it. I said, I know we got that. He goes, we still have this phone thing, as if we were that ignorant not to take a look at the phone data that they were using over my head. It was like just the impetus that you're so ignorant that you're not even going to open up to see what's on the phone. It was mind blowing. Because so just meant that everything was really about getting the fear into someone to make the decision for them. And my mom and dad, basically, I was raised with your word. You keep your word. You die on your word. And I'm gonna fight this.
Basically,
know.
basically, it's so ironic that they had such small minds that
That's right.
didn't even understand that you were way ahead of them. Like that's
They had exactly.
like
It's it's yeah
like
yeah.
okay, you think I'm ignorant, but you're
Save us all, gotta save us all. Mama says to pray. Heaven, if you can, won't you help this troubled man? Give reason for my life. Mama says to make it right. She's trying to explain there's a reason for the pain. Mama says to pray for me to save my soul today. Save my soul today. Mama says to pray for me to save my soul today. Gotta save my soul today. Mama says to pray. And heaven, if you can, won't you help this lonely man who needs love today? Please don't you go away. I'm trying not to blame. There's a reason for a change. Mama says to pray to save my soul today. Gotta save your soul today. Mama says to pray to save your soul today.